Hey everybody, I'm here today to show you and tell you how to remove a stuck Ethernet cable. This will be an easy tutorial, so let's get right into the video. As you can see right here, this is an example of an Ethernet cable. This one has this piece at the end of it, but the vast majority of them remain thin until you get to this part right here. If you have one like this, it's a little bit harder to remove it because this piece obstructs your ability to get to it. However, it's still very possible. If you have one that just has a thin cord all the way until you get to this plastic piece right here, it's going to be a little bit easier. So when you plug in an Ethernet cable, okay, what happens is you plug it in and it gets sort of lodged in place because of this little tab right here, okay? So when you want to remove it, you push down on this tab and you pull it back, okay? Now, two things can prevent your Ethernet cable from getting out and make it stuck, basically. The first is if this tab breaks. If this tab breaks, depending on where it breaks, it might get stuck. If it breaks, if the whole thing breaks, it'll just pop out. It should just pop out easily. But if just the edge breaks over here where you press onto it, then it's probably gonna be stuck in place because you can't push this down to remove it. The second situation is if this is still intact, but this part over here, there's a little notch, gets lodged in place. You can see I'm rubbing my fingernail along that notch right there. It gets lodged in place, okay? So if you're in any of those situations, the process is gonna be the same for removing it. Now, this is going to be inside of the port like this, right? So you usually only have access to this little piece right over here, okay, as you can see. And the reason this is here is because it allows you to push it down without actually touching the plastic piece, but it kind of obstructs your ability to get to it. So it's in the port and it's stuck. What you need to do is you need to essentially get a screwdriver, and listen closely, you need to very carefully get the screwdriver and press down on this, okay? And then retrieve the Ethernet cable back. Now you need to be careful because if you take your screwdriver and you start doing it in not a careful manner and you start, poking it everywhere, you might damage the actual port. So you want to be very careful to not damage the port. You want to get your screwdriver and carefully, and I'll demonstrate in a minute, you want to carefully reach into there without touching the port and press down on this. So I have this screwdriver over here. It's probably better to use a thinner one if you have access to a glasses screwdriver, something really thin, but because this is not in a port, I'm just using this because it's nice and big to show you what it would look like. So it would be in the port up to there. In this situation, I would pull this back like that, okay? So I'd pull this out of the way like that, and that gives me a little bit more access over here, okay? And I would just take my screwdriver and I would just carefully, I like to carefully slide it along the little piece right there if it's still intact, or slide it where it would be. Carefully slide it along that, and as you slide it forward, you can see it's pushing down. So I'm able to slide it forward and push that down, okay? Then try and retrieve it. And if you still can't retrieve it, then you might go just a little bit further. Once again, you want to slide it in just a little bit further, push down a little bit harder on that tab. So I'm pushing that tab down, okay? Push a little bit harder on that tab and try and pull it back. And like I said, you want to go as far as you can without touching the actual interior of the port that the Ethernet cable is plugged into. So you can go a little bit further, but try to really not touch that port. And then eventually, like I said, you're going to eventually be able to press down as hard as you can without touching the port, okay, like that. It's going to look like that. So I wouldn't be touching the port, okay? Push down on that tab and pull it back out. And that's basically it. Hopefully you're not in this situation because it can be tough to do. And like I said, you have to be very, very careful to not allow the screwdriver to touch any part of the port that the Ethernet cable is plugged into, because you always risk damaging it, and you need to be aware of that. So just be very, very careful. But yeah, if your Ethernet cable is stuck, then that's how I've removed it. Like I said, I'm not a professional. This is not, this is just my advice on something that I've done. I'm not a professional. This is not like a tried, tested and true method that I've tried hundreds of times, but I've had to remove a stuck Ethernet cable a few times, and this method has worked for me. So that's it. I'm not a pro, but I just wanted to share my experience with you and my opinion with you in this video. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down below as a comment. And of course, be sure to subscribe for more great videos just like this one. And that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching.